Hi, this is Tamara from mooglyblog.com, and in this video I'm going to be demonstrating how to make the Spring Rain Lapghan, which is a free pattern you'll find on mooglyblog.com. Be sure to check the link in the description to go to the post on Moogly for the full pattern, as well as the other tutorial. If you're right or left-handed, you happen to be watching the other one, you'll find that at the link as well. So let's go ahead and get started. I'll be using Red Heart Collage, 7 balls of this gray colorway, which is called Rag, R-A-G-G, and 2 balls of Circus, which is the colorful one you can see right here. This pattern also calls for a US P or Q, it just depends on the brand, but it's a 15mm hook. This one happens to be by Furls. This pattern begins with a multiple of 6 plus 1, and since I've used foundation double crochet to begin, that's all you need. However, if you wanted to start with normal chains, you would need to start with a multiple of 6 plus 1 plus the turning chain. So let's go ahead and start it the way it's written. We're going to start with foundation double crochet, and I have a separate video tutorial for that, but if you haven't done it before, it's pretty simple. Once you get used to it, it just takes a little bit of practice. I, of course, made a slip knot, and then I just chained 2, and these 2 chains will not count as my first stitch. To make my first foundation double crochet, which will count as my first stitch for row 1, I'm going to yarn over. I'm going to go into that first chain I made, and I like to go into the back hump of the chain, but that's just personal preference. I'm going to pull up a loop, like so, and then I'm going to yarn over, and I'm going to pull through just that first loop. And that chain right there that I just made is going to count as the chain at the base of our first foundation double crochet. From there, I finished off like a standard double crochet. I'll yarn over and pull through 2, then I'll yarn over and pull through 2, like so. So that right there, that little V, is the top of our first foundation double crochet. So if it helps, you can put a stitch marker right in that stitch. From there, we just continue across with more foundation double crochets, and the subsequent ones are all made like this. Go ahead and yarn over, just as you normally would to begin a double crochet. Then we find those 2 loops at the bottom of the stitch we just made. Those are the ones I mentioned count as the chain. So that's where we want to go back into. We're going to go under those 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 1. That's the chain at the base of our second foundation double crochet. This will be the chain right there. So we yarn over and pull through 1 to start the actual stitch. Then we yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. There we are. So that is 2 stitches made. Now this pattern begins with 43 foundation double crochets, but I'm not going to start a whole new blanket here. I'm just going to make a little swatch. So as I mentioned, this pattern is a multiple of 6 plus 1. So that means we can do this with about 13 stitches, just to show you how the pattern works. So I'm going to continue making foundation double crochets, and I'll see you as soon as I've got 13 of those made. Okay, so here I've got 13 stitches made for my swatch, and that is row 1. Essentially, you just keep making double crochets in your preferred method until you have 43 total double crochets across. Then for rows 2 and 3, it's pretty darn simple. We just chain 3, and that will count as the first stitch of each row, and then we work a double crochet in each stitch across. Since that chain 3 counts as our first stitch, make sure you don't work into that first stitch. That is the first stitch. So go to the next one and then double crochet in each stitch across. Now, if you're familiar with my chainless starting double crochet, then you can use that instead of the chain 3 if you prefer, but it's totally optional and you can use whichever method you prefer for your own blanket. So since rows 2 and 3 are just double crocheting on across, I'm going to go ahead and get those done, and I will see you when we're ready to begin row 4. In row 4, we're ready to make some different stitches. We're going to start with a chain 1, and then of course turn to go back the other way, or turn and then chain 1, whichever you prefer. Then we're going to single crochet in the very first stitch, just like that. Then we chain 2, 1, 2. Then we're just going to skip 2 stitches. So 1, 2, and then I like to put my finger on that next one so I know where I'm going. I'm going to double crochet in the next stitch. So I yarn over and go right where I stopped there. So you can see we've got a chain 2, skip 2 space there. Then we're going to chain 2 again, 1, 2, skip 2 again, and then single crochet in the next. So we'll skip 1, skip 2, single crochet in the one after that. And then we're ready to continue our repeat across. We chain 2, skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, double crochet in the next, like that, chain 2, 1, 2, skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, and single crochet in the one after that. And of course, because this is just our little swatch, we're already at the end. So I'll put that final single crochet in the top of my chain 3. And that is how you work row 4. Now, at the end of row 4, we are going to break color A, which in this case, I'm using the gray color rag. So I'm going to cut my yarn. I'm going to leave a good 6 to 8 inches so that I can weave it in when I'm done. And then I'm just going to pull that end through to finish it off and weave that end in later. Then I'm going to turn so I can be sure to come back in the other direction. And I'm going to pull up my color B. In this case, I'm using Circus. So I'm going to join with a double crochet in the first stitch. So that's that stitch we just finished off. The last stitch of row 4 is where we're going to work our first stitch of row 5, just as normal. To join with a double crochet, I'm going to hold on to my end and yarn over twice, and then just go into that stitch and finish a double crochet. This is called a standing double crochet, and I have a separate tutorial for it on the Moogly blog YouTube channel, and I will have it linked at the link in the description as well if you want to see that a little bit slower. If you don't like to join with a double crochet like this, you can join with a slip stitch as you normally would, and then chain 3, just like we started all our other previous rows. So once you've got whatever form of double crochet you want to put in that first stitch, we're going to work 2 more double crochets both into that same first stitch. So you'll have 3 total worked into the first stitch. There we are. 3 double crochets all worked into that one. Then we're going to chain 1. And then it says skip the next double crochet. So that's all the way over here. So we know we're going to skip everything there. And then we are going to work 2 double crochets, a half double crochet, and a 2 double crochet in the next single crochet. So that means we skip over everything all the way over here to this next single crochet, and that's where we work our set of 2 double crochets, 1 and 2, followed by a half double crochet. Whoops, there we go. And then 2 more double crochets, again, all worked into that same single crochet. So there's 1. Pull up a little bit more yarn here. Here we go. With this yarn, I find you can pull from the inside or the outside equally well. So there we go. And there we've got it. 2 double crochets followed by a half double crochet and 2 more double crochets worked into the single crochet. Then we chain 1 and skip all the way over to the next single crochet. Now, when you're working the whole blanket, of course, you'll have lots more of these. You'll have lots of chain 1, skip all the way to the next single crochet and work these. Then chain 1 again, skip all the way over to the next single crochet, work all of these again. Since we're just working a little swatch, we're already coming to the end. So when you get to the end and your last single crochet is that very last one worked at the end of the row, then that's where we're going to work 3 more double crochets. The 3 double crochets on each end are sort of like a half of the shell that we did before. It's kind of like almost as if we were trying to split this in half. A little bit more yarn. There we are. And there is our 3rd one of those. So that, with lots more of these in between, is what your row 5 should look like. So once we've done that row, we're already ready to go ahead and cut color B. So let me pull my scissors back up. And once again, I want to leave a good 6 to 8 inches at least to weave that in. And I'll set that one aside and finish this one off. Now, this is where the instructions are a little wacky. We're not going to turn. We are going to leave it facing this direction when we join our color A back in, our gray. And that's row 6. So to begin row 6, we're going to join with a single crochet. And this, I have a separate tutorial for called standing single crochet, if you want to look that up, and I will be sure to link that in the tutorial for this blanket as well. But basically, we start with a slip knot on the hook in the yarn we want to join with. We find that first stitch we want to work into. If you did a join with a slip knot or a slip stitch and chain 3, this will be the top of your chain 3. Let me find the right end. There we are. And now that I've gone into that stitch, I'm just going to yarn over, pull up a loop, and then yarn over and pull through 2. And there we've got a single crochet made right in our first stitch. Again, if you prefer, you can join with a slip stitch, chain 1, and single crochet in that first stitch, whichever method you prefer. From there, we begin our repeat. I'm going to chain 2, then I'm going to skip 2 double crochets, so these 2 right here. Then I am going to double crochet in the next double crochet that is 2 rows below, enclosing the chain 1 of the previous row. That's read straight off the pattern. Let me show you what it means. Basically, I'm going to come down here, and let me pull this out for a second so it's a little easier to see. If you look, we've got our chain 1 from row 5 right there, and back here in row 4, we've got that double crochet. That's the stitch we want to work into here. So after we made our single crochet and chain 2, then we are going to work a double crochet right into this one, enclosing this one. So that means we yarn over, go into this stitch, and just keep that chain 1 right on top. Don't try and push it out the side or work in front of it. Just keep it right on there. When you wrap your yarn around to pull up your loop, that will be enclosed in the stitch. So we just finished that like a standard double crochet. Just like that. You can see it's nice and enclosed on both sides. So from there, we come back to our repeat. We chain 2. We skip these 2 double crochets, and we're going to work a half double crochet in the half double crochet that's right in the center, just to anchor that bit down. Then we chain 2 again, and then it's time for another double crochet in the double crochet 2 rows below. Same thing, just go ahead and close that one. And that is our basic repeat for this one. You chain 2, work a double crochet right down in that double crochet, chain 2, work a half double crochet right into the half double crochet in the center, chain 2, time for another double crochet right down there. And keep just doing that on across. Whoops, dropped it off my hook. There we are. 2 more chains, and you'll come all the way back to that end of the row again. When you get to the end of row 6, rather than putting a half double crochet like we have been in between all our double crochets before, we're just going to finish it off with a single crochet. Remember, we started this row with single crochet, so we'll finish it with a single crochet. And the reasoning behind that, in case you're curious, is because we use the half double crochets in the half double crochets here because they're a little shorter. And because this is a double crochet at the end, we just use a single crochet to try and even out that row again in preparation for the next row, which is row 7. All right, so for row 7, we're going to start with a chain 3. And as you might have guessed from our previous rows, that will count as our first double crochet of the row. And of course, we're now ready to turn and go back the other direction. So for this row, pretty simple. Again, it's just double crochet across, just like our previous rows. This one's just a little different because we have chain spaces to work into. So rather than working individual chains, which is of course kind of annoying and fiddly, I like to work just right into the chain space. So in each of these chain spaces, we're going to work 2 double crochets, 1 and 2, just go right into that space. And then in each of the stitches, we'll work 1 double crochet. So this just gets us back to an even number, well, 43. So I guess it's not an even number, an odd number, but back to that standard number, the number we started with here, the number of double crochets. So if you've altered the stitch pattern for this by adding or subtracting stitches, then you'll just want to make sure that this row has the same number of stitches as you had in your first row, as well as rows 2 and 3, of course. So I'm just working my way right on across. Almost there. You can see I've put 2 double crochets in each chain space. If I haven't, I've screwed up. Yep, I did. Did I? Yes. Okay. Thought I did miss one there for a minute. There we are. And 1 double crochet in each stitch. Like so. And there we should have 13 stitches again, including that chain 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Whew, we made it. 13 stitches. So that's how you make row 7. Now, at this point, we've actually made the entire repeat for the blanket. We're just going to come back and repeat from rows 2 through 7 as we continue the blanket. So remember, rows 2 and 3, simple, double crochet. Row 4, that's where we set up with these double crochets and single crochets. Row 5, of course, was our beautiful color row. Row 6, we put another framework over that one to lead us up to row 7, where we just work our double crochets again. Okay, so the only thing left to talk about is the border. Now, for the first row of the border on this blanket, I'm just going to pretend that it's time to make the border, even though I wouldn't make the border at quite this point. You want to repeat, make these repeats, repeat through row 7, but then make a row 2 and 3 repeat again to sort of cap it off so that everything ends up looking really even, and so that you have sort of 3 solid rows of the gray at the top, just like you had 3 solid rows at the bottom. But when it is time to make the border, then for the first round of the border, very simply, you're going to chain 1 and work a single crochet in each stitch across the previous row. So easy enough, single crochet across, boom, boom, boom. Then when you get to the corner, you're going to chain 2 and then single crochet evenly along the side of the blanket. I find it's easiest and best, for me at least, to work 2 single crochets in the side of each double crochet row. So anytime you've got a chain 3 or a double crochet there, you'd work 2 single crochets, in the side of each of these rows. And then I like to work 1 single crochet in the side of each single crochet row. So anytime you've got a row that ended in a single crochet, like this one, I'd work 1 single crochet in there. And then, of course, the double crochet rows would each get 2. So after you've worked that around, then go ahead and break that color. And then I like to come back in for edging or border round 2 with the second color. So let me demo that here in just a minute. Okay, so after you've finished border round 1, like I say, you work all the way around, work across the foundation chain, come back up the other side, make sure you work your chain 2 in each corner. When we come back around, join to that first one and go ahead and break color A. This is where we bring in color B. I am going to join, when I joined to my first single crochet that I made in the first border round, it was right here. So I want to come back to the chain 2 space right before there. And I'm going to join with a single crochet, just as I did before. If you prefer, again, you can join with a slip stitch, chain 1, and then single crochet. Then we are going to chain 2, 1, 2, oops, try that again. There we are. And single crochet right back in that same chain 2 space. And that is what we'll do in each of the 4 corners. Every time we come to a chain 2 space, we single crochet, chain 2, and single crochet right back in that chain 2 space. So that'll be our corners for border round 2. Then we are going to work across in the back loop only. So we're going to skip the next stitch, which would be the first one actually, come to the second one, and going into that back loop only, we're going to single crochet, chain 1, and single crochet again. Okay, and that is going to be our repeat. Skip the next stitch, come to the next one, and then in back loop only, single crochet, chain 1, and single crochet. Now, if you're not familiar with back loop only, front loop only, it's again something else I have a separate tutorial for that I'll be sure to try and link out to here. But basically, when you look at the top of the stitches, the V sort of at the top of each crochet stitch, whichever of those is closest to you is the front loop. Whichever of those is farthest away from you is the back loop. And so if I turned, it would be the other way around then. So this would be the front loop and this would be the back loop. So you see, because we're working this direction, these are the back loops. If I were working from this side, these would be the back loops. It's just totally dependent on the crocheter. It's relative to you as the person who's crocheting. So again, skip 1, come to the back loop of the one after that, single crochet, there we are, chain 1, and single crochet again. And we're just going to continue that all the way across, working our corners just as I showed you before. We need chain 2s in those so that we can get around the corner nicely. But you can see, hopefully, here that this second border round just gives you a little bit more interest for the border. I just like the way this shapes up. It's a little more interesting than just a standard single crochet all the way around. Gives it a little bit more movement and life. And again, it's just a really great chance to show off these beautiful colors in the Red Heart collage. So that's how you make the Spring Rain Lapghan. Once again, be sure to check the description for a link out to the tutorial on Moogly. There you'll find both the right and left-handed versions of this video, as well as tutorials for all the other stitches that I've mentioned, and of course, the written pattern for the blanket itself. So I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. Please do give it a like, and please do subscribe to the channel. Thanks so much for watching.